Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Minecraft video. This one's a little different from what I normally post on this channel. Today we're going to be sharing some ideas and speculation on the topic of inventory management in Minecraft, specifically using shulker boxes to solve some of those problems. And shulker boxes have actually been a major addition to this game that have really helped with inventory management. But here's the thing, this was designed 10 years ago, okay? And there are far more blocks than can fit into this inventory in this game now, and there will be more blocks in the future as more updates comes along, and I think that things really need a change. And personally, I think something drastic should be done, like rethink the entire way blocks are managed and inventory works in this game. But that level of change is probably not going to be accepted by the broader community. So we have brainstormed some ideas that can be enchantments for shulker boxes, which would feel very vanilla, wouldn't mess with the layout of any of this, and add some more functionality. And before we get further into it, I just want to say we're on a backup of the Hermitcraft server right now, so I can just jump into creative mode. This area right here was built by Cubfan, and I just felt like it was the perfect place to do this video because it's a gorgeous little build and it's filled up with shulker boxes which I can just grab and throw into my ender chests over here. The first thing I want to mention is that I'm also using a mod as well as resource packs to record this video. This mod allows you to look inside of the shulker boxes when they're in your inventory. I think it's fantastic, and this is the first thing that I'm going to suggest should be inside the vanilla game. It means that organizing massive amounts of items becomes so much simpler when you can just open up a chest full of shulker boxes and see the contents that are inside them. So this enchantment could be known as Reveal, and you'll notice that it has an eye after it. These ones don't actually have levels at all. I've just renamed some other enchanted books using the resource pack. And to give you a sense of perspective as to how powerful this could be, the contents of all of these chests right here, if they were filled to the brim, plus an additional 3, could actually be seen from inside a single chest. Because in here, I filled it up with random shulker boxes from this room, and you can actually peer in and see the entire contents from one spot. And this, I think, is just simply superb. For this next enchantment, I first of all need to give you a sense of how quickly the inventory can fill up when you're in survival. Now when you go out and about, you've already got stuff like food, arrows, a bunch of tools on your hotbar, probably an ender chest and some shulker boxes, and then you start doing some digging in the area, and rather quickly a lot of different block types can fill up inside of your inventory space. And that means that you tend to spend a lot of time working on projects, preparing the area, and constantly having to go over to chests or shulker boxes and remove a bunch of junk items that you don't actually want inside of your inventory. Now this enchantment I want to call Vaccume, and you're going to have to use your imagination a little bit here because I don't have a mod or anything to specifically show you what I'm talking about. But let's say this has the enchantment on it and I'm out here digging. Because that shulker box is empty, it doesn't actually change anything at all. But as soon as I put items inside of it, the Vaccume enchantment means that those items would then go into this shulker box. So I'm going to put a bunch of dirt like this, then I'll do some digging, and all of the dirt that I pick up would then automatically go into these slots inside of the shulker box. But there's a catch, okay? If those slots are full, it's then no longer going to put anything in there. And this means this can act like an item filtering system. But the really cool thing is, when you're picking up particular types of junk based on what biome you're in, and you shift them in like this to your shulker box, all of these items are now part of the filtering system, and if you know you're going to pick up a lot, you can just move them about like this, and essentially it means that it's going to fill up slots that already have an item in it, but it'll also ignore empty slots. So it's a way of you telling your inventory what items you want to go inside of the shulker box. And of all the enchantment suggestions I'm going to show you, I think this is the best one of all of them. It feels like a real game changer. It's kind of natural, fits into the vanilla very well, and that one is going to be called the Vaccume enchantment. This next one is called the Placer enchantment, and I actually have two ideas on how this could work. The first idea is probably not the better, so we're going to start there, but I need to give you an example of what you might be doing in Minecraft. You might be landscaping with several blocks, and the prettier your landscapes are, the more blocks you need, and it can be kind of frustrating to manage that inside of your inventory and constantly be running out of blocks as you place them. Obviously right now I'm just doing stuff in creative, and again, I'm on a backup of the Hermitcraft server. We're not on the actual Hermitcraft server right now. But after placing a bunch of blocks, it's quite likely that I'm then suddenly going to run out of something and have to fish into my inventory. So the first idea that we had for this enchantment is that when you're holding the shulker box, it can actually change into the block that's inside of it. So if I had a bunch of stone inside of this shulker box, this would appear like stone in my hand, and I would simply be placing those from inside the shulker box. But here is what I think is an even better idea, and maybe deserves a different enchantment name like the feeder. So here we have a shulker box with stone stairs in, and I'm going to use this dispenser to the side of it to simulate what happens when I place down one of these blocks, okay? I place it, and then the shulker box in my inventory could feed me an additional one of the item that I've just placed. Of course, now there would be one less inside of this shulker box, but I'm not using a mod to show you what's going on, we're just using our imagination here. So every time you place down an item, if you've got a shulker box with that item inside of your inventory and it's enchanted with the right enchantment, it could automatically move it from the shulker box into the block that you are placing. And you know what, just saying that out loud, it sounds like a fantastic solution. And that was the placer enchantment, or maybe we should call it the feeder enchantment, because personally I like the second version of that idea a lot more than the first one. Now the next of these are not as extravagant as those two ideas, but they are simply here to share these ideas and see what all of you think. So one that's probably quite obvious is to double up the amount of slots. So you could open up an enchanted shulker box and it would have this much space inside of it. That one could be called Double Up, and this next one, we'll call it Backpack. And personally, I feel like this one is a little bit redundant because you can place a shulker box down on the ground, look inside of it, pick it back up again. I already consider shulker boxes to be like a backpack, but imagine if you could just click on it from inside your inventory and then see the contents and move them in and out of your inventory. That could potentially be something to help players, but again, it's not too different from just placing it on the ground and picking it up again. And this last one, called Ender Power, is probably my least favourite of all of these, but we discussed these during some live streams and I wanted to share the best of the ideas, even if they're not my favourite, and I think a lot of you will like this one. It's the power to convert a shulker box into an ender chest. So imagine that this one is enchanted and the one in my inventory is, and then I place this down and I take out the spruce logs. Well, that one over there would then also lose its spruce logs because we had paired the two shulker boxes together, and I think that's extraordinarily powerful. It would enable you to essentially create tons and tons of ender chests that are not just per person but universal for people on the server. So let's say there's another player over there and they go and deposit some spruce logs for me to build with. I would then see them inside of this shulker box as well. Definitely overpowered. And while we're on the topic of that, you know, why not just make ender chests like a double chest? I know it takes up a single block and that kind of breaks the rules of how chests like over here work, but I really do feel like there are many blocks in this game, and being able to move them around easier, we could just do that by doubling the size of the ender chest. That would also have no backwards compatibility issues as well, right? If you're playing in a world with a single and then it just upgrades to a double, you just got more space in there. And kind of like the ender chest suggestion there, this last change is not really related to enchanted shulker boxes. You might have noticed it earlier that inside here I'd use a resource pack to add a few extra slots. Now there are things that you carry around with you quite frequently that maybe could just do with their own slot, like the arrow one right here, a place to store those and specifically that item. And maybe this could be compatible with some of the enchantments we talked about, like maybe you've also got a shulker box full of arrows to keep it stocked up. Now when it comes to these other ones, they're going to add keys that you press to use them. Now this one is for food and not just pork chops, but all the different types of food could go into that slot, and then you could have a button that you press to just activate it, and you don't have to worry about managing having that stuff on your hotbar or in your offhand. There is a bit of a downside to this, you know, adding lots of keys isn't always the best way to go, and then there's also console users as well who might have a limited amount of buttons on the controller. Because of course we're in Java Edition where we have an entire keyboard at our disposal, and the other one right here is a projectile slot. Specifically I was thinking ender pearls, but then maybe some other round shaped projectiles could also be stored in here, and then have a button to activate them when you like. I love the idea of just pressing a button and an ender pearl being launched from your inventory. Maybe this could be shared with some other types of projectiles as well. And those are my ideas for inventory management in Minecraft, and I really do think inventory management is very important because with so many blocks in this game, it is actually getting quite tedious. When I play this game, I find a lot of time is dedicated to inventory management, and I really do feel like we need some things to make that easier so we can focus on playing, having fun, and being creative. And the ideas don't end there, my friends, because I know many of you have probably got so many ideas running through your head. Share them in the comments down below. I'm going to be reading them. Hey, maybe if Mojang happen to see this video, they might have a read as well and get some really cool ideas, because I think they're aware that inventory in this game needs to be addressed, and I hope these ideas are useful. So thanks for watching the video. Leave a like if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you real soon. The next video is probably going to be another episode of Hermitcraft.